Deadly Games, another unearthed slasher released by Arrow Video, and I was really thankful that I managed to watch this on the Arrow player. It was one that I was somewhat curious about checking out, simply because it's a slasher from the early 80s. It's the kind of thing I mostly like, with the exception of the odd one that's not as great. It doesn't even live up to the standard tropes of the genre. Death screams. Anyway, Deadly Games is a movie about a killer that seems to be using a board game as instructions of how to murder people. This is a kind of weird one. Opens up really quite well, actually. A little bit tropey, but much to the same kind of vein as most slashers. You get a little bit of nudity, you get a little bit of play, some watching, and ultimate kill at the start of it. It's a fun opening sequence, and unfortunately the rest of the movie is pretty downhill from there. We have a sister of the person who dies at the start coming back to town, reconnecting with a lot of the people that are there that she knew in high school. This is a movie where it's not teenagers, but it's people in their 20s, edging on 30s by the looks of them, definitely, but I think the way the script is styled, and they kind of know that something's not quite right, and as more people start to die, they suddenly realise that for some reason people are dying. It may get connected near the end, kind of, hopefully. It's a movie that has long, dry spells of conversations that are uninteresting, pointless, not things to be really roused about, nothing to keep you entertained in between the kill sequences. And I feel that the twist, the reveal of who the killer is, which is always a mainstay of these kind of slashers, is telegraphed very, very early on. I would have preferred that kind of had a little bit of mystery to it, but it just isn't there. For me personally, if you didn't figure out, or at least feel as if you were pointed in that direction by the actual film itself, good for you, because there was a little bit of a surprise to have. The kill sequences from then on become a little bit formulaic and dull, and they lack in blood and gore, and they feel very uninteresting at certain points. But the main problem I had with this movie, of which I had several, was the frustrating aspect of it. And not frustrating where some other movies can be that way, but ultimately have good payoffs. It was just genuinely frustrating in the way that the characters dealt with their situations. They are tropey, but they're taken to extremes where it's just really not great. Like someone who's walking in what seems like an abandoned car park. It's very dark. She has that spidey sense that maybe someone is watching her, and rather than speedily making it to her car, decides to shout out her actual location. And you're just head and hands frustrated about what's going on. Our main character starts to have a relationship with a cop who is already married, and they mention that several times, but the relationship there is already broken down, as we've seen throughout the movie. If I'm following this right, which it seems nonsensical, but I'm pretty sure I am, he is a police officer and he owns a theatre which he runs with his creepy friend from Nam, who was half exploded in a grenade, and they just show horror movies all the time. And then for a good 10, 15, maybe longer minutes, it devolves into a ridiculous romantic sequence where our main character goes on a date with the cop, and the wee creepy dude ends up coming along with them. And then it kind of jumps to a montage of them just having various dates, and it's all three of them, and at any point you feel as if this is going down a different kind of exploitation route rather than horror, or at least I did, and I was not wanting it to go that way. It was kind of creeping me out and felt rather freaky. The characters in this one are very bland. They're uninteresting. The kills, again, rather uninspired and uninteresting. Unlike the first one, which kind of gives you some of what you're looking for, but then it's ultimately let down by the performances and the actors and the tropes that are going on here. And a particular moment is the ending, which is one of the worst endings to a slasher I think I've ever seen in my life. It is lacking a solid conclusion. It stops on a freeze frame that is anger inducing, which is the best way to put it. What a completely blue-balled ending for this one. It just doesn't give you a climax to the movie, which you are waiting for. I'm glad I saw this in the Arrow player, because this isn't a movie that I want in my collection. It's one that I would have been a little bit upset with myself if I had actually spent hard-earned money on this. I say, if you are a slasher completist and you feel the compulsion that you have to get it, by all means, but trust me, it's not one that's going to be watched a lot in your collection, and it's not one that I think deserves to be in many people's collections. My opinion. Of course, I would love to hear your opinion. Let me know if you love this movie and why you do, or if you've got a similar opinion to mine, or if you fall somewhere in the middle. I would love to hear it. I'd love to have a little conversation with you about it in the comment box below. As always, there's more content up here. You can see more of my stuff if you so want. And if you would try to take a quick second and hit that like button, that would be amazing. And if you want to go a little bit further and really help me out this year, you can join the Patreon or the membership program for as little as 99p a month. And that really does help the running costs of the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Man v Film.